Hello friends, I'm recording this Sunday morning, and in case you're wondering, yes, this is why the weekly sip is late. I've got to do this right now because I have a feeling another Twitter ban is imminent, so I got to get this done before all the evidence disappears. I put out this tweet. In a future where gender dysphoria is cured by taking a pill to alleviate symptoms, transitioning will likely be viewed the same way other outdated treatments are. You can do it, but the people peddling it are quacks, and you will be looked at funny for not taking the obvious cure. This isn't exactly my most viral tweet ever. I've had many more things go way more viral than this, but the amount of insane vitriol that this unearthed is pretty extreme. And I want to laugh at some of the retards that have decided to show up here, but also discuss the idea more seriously as well. Now, most people who angrily came into my mentions pointed out that a pill to alleviate symptoms is literally HRT, which is true. Not all forms of HRT are injected. Some of them you actually take them as pills. But of course, I always quickly clarify, I'm talking about a pill that makes you comfortable as your birth sex. So as the analogy goes, HRT moves your body to be more in line with your brain. I'm talking about moving your brain to be more in line with your body. Now, a good chunk of them just blocked me after I said that because they just found that inherently immoral and offensive. But there doesn't seem to be much of a reason as to why that's immoral or offensive. But these people are doing the reverse Uno thing. And honestly, that was just most people. I can appreciate the wittiness, but it's clearly not what I'm talking about. A lot of people claim that I've never spoken to a trans person before, or that I don't have any trans people in my life. If only they knew. Oh, this one made the opposite claim. I'm not somebody who knows zero trans women. I'm a chaser of trans women. I hate to burst your bubble, but I don't need to chase them. They tend to come to me. In my experience, it's generally hard for progressives to understand that people can have a different idea than them that doesn't stem out of ignorance. No, I know many trans people, and a lot of them even agree with me here. Oftentimes the conversation will go to a place where they say something like, "There's nothing wrong with trans people's brains, only yours." The meaning behind it being that trans people actually have nothing wrong with them. And it's like, well, no, that's not true. Gender dysphoria is a mental illness. Transitioning is the treatment for that illness. If there's nothing wrong with the trans person's brain, what are they treating with the hormones then? If you provided me with a pill that suppressed gender dysphoria, it would only stimulate me to further and more boldly explore my femininity through transsexuality. The pill that you hope would eradicate me would make me into more of a tranny. You lose. Well, I don't care about eradicating you, and I don't care whether or not you're a tranny. But this doesn't sound like it's a cure for dysphoria. This now sounds like a fetish. And in fact, this person basically admits it. Gender dysphoria isn't what makes me trans, lol. It's what prevents me from being as feminine as I probably could. It is the limit that sad passion set to what my body can do. This is a hill that I'm gonna die on, alright? If you have gender dysphoria, or you have transitioned and the transitioning has successfully treated the gender dysphoria such that you no longer have it, but if you went off the transitioning, it would come back. That means that you're trans. If you don't have gender dysphoria and your transitioning does not treat gender dysphoria, then you're not trans. You're an HRT femboy pursuing an aesthetic. And you do you, that's your right. But dysphoria has to be part of the equation to make you trans. Again, that's why transitioning is medical treatment. You're treating a mental illness, dysphoria. Without the mental illness, it's not a treatment anymore, and you just want to be a trap. And sometimes just the best nonsense falls into your lap. Me would never talk to a real person in the real world. Why do cis men with horrible LGBT takes always have the worst and most annoying profile pictures? Well, that was actually, that was purposeful. I wanted it to be annoying. But yet to this person, because they have 0 to 3 commissions currently occupied, I just asked for a commission of a happy, successful conversion therapy patient. Because at this point, I just didn't care about these morons anymore. Bro, just say you hate queer people and leave. This devil's advocate, what if type of mentality is just as harmful as people trying to eradicate trans people directly. Fuck off. I wonder how many trannies died because I posted a tweet. Here's the deal. I want this guy killed. Clean shot. Who's this? Homo posting. Revisionist Marxist. Reads Sartre. Sartre? Wasn't he one of the French intellectuals who wanted the age of consent abolished? Of course, sometimes these people are just fucking insane. I would have no moral issue with sharp objects dancing very close to your windpipe. Look at this guy's bio, dude. Perma-regressed Everchild, Befojo Gamine, Children's Card Game Appreciator. Our minds are very young, 6, 10, 12, and 16. Please be nice. So this person claims to have multiple personalities, all very underage. I guarantee you this person is just a 45-year-old man. Check this person out. We have no compassion and ask no compassion from you. When our turn comes, We will not make excuses for the terror. It's always great when they just go mask off and like they don't even pretend that it's about the arguments anymore, or even that it's about transphobia anymore. They just want to hurt you. That's it. However, of course, this person is a fucking permanently online loser. There will be no terror. They experience enough terror trying to order Chinese food over the phone because the local rat soup shop doesn't have an online portal like Domino's. They are never going to do anything in real life. Okay, here's an actual argument from Euphoritori. She says, any type of pill like this would erase who I am. I wouldn't be me anymore, and I'd rather die than live like that. And she's actually engaging with the hypothetical. The idea is, okay, we have a pill, rather than put you on HRT and feminize your body to match your, for lack of better term, feminine brain. I know that's not quite accurate, but you know what I'm talking about. Instead of feminizing the body to match the brain, what we could do is change the brain to match the body. That's what this hypothetical is getting at. I'm not saying it's possible. I don't think it's currently possible. But if it were, would it be a good treatment? And Euphoritori says, no, it would not be a good treatment because that would be erasing their current personality. And personally, I don't think that argument holds up because your current personality is being erased all the time. As you move through different phases of your life, you're shedding old identities and picking up new ones. You're not the person that you were 5, 10, 20 years ago. That doesn't mean that that person died. It doesn't mean that they were erased. In fact, it means they transitioned. You transition from child to teenager to adult. You transition in and out of various physical and mental problems. You transition between relationships and jobs. These are all deaths of an identity, but it doesn't constitute the death of yourself, and you wouldn't even say that. You are a different person, but the previous person that you were didn't die, they changed into you. There is a continuity between the various selves of your past. Several other people use the identity death logic in this conversation. Euphoritori was just probably the most well-spoken one, but I don't think the logic tracks. Some people began to say that taking a pill to alter your personality that drastically, like Euphoritori said, was inherently immoral. Like this person here. Take it further. A pill that just makes you accept whatever circumstances you're in. Consumed by grief? Pill. You get racial discrimination for your skin color? Pill. You are angry at your work conditions, politics, inequality? Pill. The issue ultimately is, this person is also describing HRT. HRT doesn't only change your body, it also has mental effects. She's saying it's this grave sin to alter your mind with a pill, but HRT also does this. Hell, a lot of recreational drugs that progressives want legalized also do this. The only difference that I can see is that my hypothetical is a one-time pill that leaves a permanent change. Okay, if that bugs you, what if the hypothetical treatment alleviated dysphoria, but it didn't transition you, and you had to keep taking it like HRT? Would it be immoral? I don't think so, but I'm not sure progressives would agree. In fact, at one point somebody brought up transhumanism, the idea that in the future we'll be doing more extensive edits to our bodies and minds using advanced technology, and both a dysphoria treatment to bring body in line with brain and brain in line with body sounds like transhumanism to me, but these people didn't like that. Transhumanism is the freedom to completely self-realize, not the freedom to change someone else's self. This person's a pure utopian. They don't think that future technology will be used against them. So I'm assuming that in your perfect world we would have cured autism too? Yes. You have the most boring idea of transhumanism possible. Instead of expanding the possibilities of how we can live our lives, trying to keeping as narrow and restricted as possible. Listen, modernity has brought some great expansions of possibilities regarding how we can choose to live our lives. For example, I can do something now that I couldn't do 50 years ago. I can go and do as much fentanyl as I want until I die on the street. That's a possibility that modernity has brought to me. But you know what? The reason that things are narrow and restricted sometimes is because that's good. They ultimately didn't have a transhumanist-based argument either. They simply said, our type of body edits are expanding humanity, while yours are eugenics. And that's not an argument. That's just more bad thing, bad baby logic. One of the most revolting things about transphobic narratives is the sick, self-satisfied glee these people manage to extract from fantasizing about a world where trans people no longer exist. This is the trans genocide argument, where the idea is a future where there's no more trans people means that trans people have been genocided. I don't think that's true. I know, for example, I think Vosh believes, and some other people too believe, they believe that certain hormone imbalances, or I don't know, hormonal events, I don't fucking know, that happen to the child from the mother while the mother's pregnant is the hypothesis for causing gender dysphoria at birth. Okay, let's assume that's the case, just for hypothetical sake. If we gave all mothers certain pills or shots or whatever that prevented what Vosh calls these hormone washes, and that made it so that there was no more gender dysphoria, is that a trans genocide? There's no more trans people, but there's also no more people suffering from a horrific mental illness. On some level, there seems to be two forces within the trans conversation that are directly at odds: treating gender dysphoria and the continuation of trans people as a political bloc. Because if we cured cancer, for example, there would definitely be a cancer patient genocide and that there would be no more cancer patients. That would be good. And in fact, with some of these people, I think they've blocked me. I gotta find it. Here we go, I found it finally. Where does treating pregnant women to ensure nobody is born with gender dysphoria anymore come into the UN's definition of genocide? Deliberate targeting of a group, trans people, with the intent of making them not exist anymore. Some people literally just will outright say it, that a cure for gender dysphoria that makes it so that people who would have been trans are no longer trans, that's genocide. And that it's more important that the trans identity, the trans group, the political unit, continue forward into the future than it is actually helping cure those people, in a hypothetical where such a cure existed. It seems to be the case that to progressives, trans people are just a political pawn. In fact, this entire conversation is about isolating first principles, although many of these people just didn't understand this. I prefer the future, where boring cis dudes shut the fuck up about their hypothetical magic pill and realize, do you know what a hypothetical is not a valid argument. This person doesn't understand what the point of hypotheticals is. In fact, in my experience, a lot of people don't understand what the point of a hypothetical is. The idea is to get at first principles. A first principle is when you isolate what's really wrong with a thing. Most people genuinely don't understand how this works. I saw a debate Destiny had with an anti-sex work feminist, for example, where she just didn't get it. But in order for us to get to the first principles, we first have to discuss what's at the core of this conversation. We all agree conversion therapy is immoral, but to understand why it's immoral, we need to write down all of the reasons that it is and then start knocking them away one by one to see which pillar is actually holding the thing up. So as far as I can tell, all of the possible arguments for why conversion therapy is immoral are because 1, it's extremely painful, 2, it doesn't work, 3, it's generally non-consensual, and 4, it implies that there should be less gay or trans people. So let's start knocking the legs out. It's extremely painful. This isn't an argument. Other medical treatments are painful, we still use them if they work. Chemo is painful and we do it because it works. So does it work? No. So conversion therapy is immoral because it doesn't work. Okay, what if it did work? Is it consensual? No. So even a working conversion therapy would be immoral if it was always non-consensual. Okay, what if people consented to it too? Should there be less gay or trans people? My answer to this is, it doesn't matter. For a liberal, this is a value-neutral answer. A room of 100 gay people and 0 straight people has the same moral value as a room full of 100 straight people and 0 gay people. No more and no less. So this question doesn't actually matter. What this means is, from a liberal point of view, we've isolated what makes conversion therapy immoral by stripping away the pieces of it until it does become moral in our eyes. The arguments it's painful and it implies there should be less gay or trans people contribute no moral content to conversion therapy. The arguments it doesn't work and it's non-consensual do contribute moral content to conversion therapy. Therefore, conversion therapy is immoral because it doesn't work and it's non-consensual. And also, if conversion therapy worked and was consented to, it would not be immoral. But the trans activists couldn't accept this. To them, it would still be immoral even if it worked and even if people consented, because to them, extra moral content lies elsewhere in conversion therapy. Let's find it. I made this follow-up post, addressing the obvious point of contention. Yes, this would be a form of conversion therapy. What makes conversion therapy immoral is that it doesn't work. If conversion therapy worked, then there would be no moral issue with it. This is an argument that I haven't seen anyone here actually have a good reply to, because it seems to be true. Sam Brinton, for example, ended up being a complete and total liar about his conversion therapy experience. But the experience he described in that video was one that was commonly used just, several decades before Sam Brinton was born. This is the face of a person who hates a spectrum of human expression and wants to squash all uniqueness. Dude, do you have an argument or not? No, that's not what makes it immoral. It is the fact that conversion therapy tries to take all already marginalized people and try to break them to fit the box society demands that they slot into. You're not engaging with the hypothetical. If they choose it, what's the problem? This is what I mean when I talk about approaching first principles. What is it that makes conversion therapy immoral? Whether it works has never been the basis on which its morality is judged, and ever will be. It's opposite day in your skull. We could edit people to not be black anymore so nobody has to deal with racism. Is that fine to you? No, we should change society to not be racist? Black is a skin color, it's not a set of behaviors, and it's certainly not a mental illness. It's not the same thing. That's not a comparable conversation. Least genocidal liberal. This person probably thinks that my existence is genocide because the bloodline of my non-white ancestors are now part of a white passing genome. Getting real sick of genocidal freaks like this, treating our lives and bodies like their quirky little thought experiment. Is that why you're called the Dyin' Hawaiian? What makes ethnic cleansing immoral is that it doesn't work. If it worked, there would be no moral issue with it. No, because that involves killing people, you moron. And look, there's just people who are morally outraged, but they have no argument. Oh fuck, it's not cursed E. This fucking moron. This person's blocked me on like 6 or 7 different Twitter accounts, by the way. I guess I'm not blocked on this one yet. This is a wild misunderstanding of what makes conversion therapy immoral, and I'm not surprised to see it following a transgender cure post out. Well, let's see, what's her argument? Conversion practices often involve horrific methods, but even if they didn't, and you had a 100% safe way of achieving it, the fact that you desire changing someone from being LGBTQIA+ at all is bad, when you can just leave them alone and stop being a fucking bigot. Here's the thing, I don't desire it. I don't care. What's actually going on here is that unlike a liberal, the progressives see that fourth argument, should there be less gay or trans people, not as value neutral. They don't think the answer to that question is who cares. For them, more LGBTQIA+ people is a priori good, and less is bad, which means that any hypothetical treatment for dysphoria that results in people not transitioning is inherently immoral. It's part of the trans genocide, even if no one's actually dying, because the political concept of transness is not being carried forward into the next generation. This doesn't work because the arc of trans liberation is dual-tracked, increasing respect for liberty-based bodily autonomy and increased access to medical care for gender dysphoria are complementary. If far in the future the latter is no issue, there's still the former. Now, of course, they're never going to talk about liberty-based bodily autonomy when it comes to vaccines, but that's not because it was ever about bodily liberty or autonomy. It's only about the expansion of the trans political bloc. Now, some people call me an assimilationist, both in terms of a side conversation that happened regarding ethnicity, but also in terms of the trans question itself. Because there are trans separatists who don't want to actually conform to any sort of normative notion of gender, and then there are trans assimilationists who want to pass and stealth and simply be treated as the gender as they appear to the people around them. And in the most extreme trans activist camps, the trans assimilationists, the ones who want to pass and stealth, they're problematic. They're problematic because their act of passing upholds the cis heteronormative capitalist patriarchy. They could choose to actively deconstruct these limitations, but instead they're choosing to support them by blending in. I don't know about you, but I personally think assimilation into liberal culture is pretty based. I can't speak much on the trans question, but I do know in terms of ethnicity. I'm happy that I live in a modern society with internet and video games and heating and food, and I'm not living in a fucking teepee. At the end of the day, these people have very messed up relationships with conversion therapy. It's easy if you're a normie to wrap your head around this. If conversion therapy worked, and a gay man wanted to be straight, by what right do you tell him he can't? Any sane person would say, go ahead, it's your life. But these people have no answer to the question. They simply see more LGBTQIA+ whatever people existing as an a priori good, regardless of whether or not that actually makes other people happy. Some people said, like, kind of limp-wristedly, well, we'd ask him why they want that, because it's all part of, like, internalized homophobia. It was like, well, hold on. You don't get to interrogate people for their preferences. You don't allow it when they're gay or when they're trans. Why should you allow it here? Oh, because they're wanting to transition away from being gay or trans if possible. And as I said, they view more LGBTQ people existing as an a priori good, independent of the wishes of those actual people. That's why they cannot actually engage with the hypothetical. And I'll probably get banned for it, so hope it was worth it. At least I got a video out of it. Okay, I'm recording this section several days later. Sorry the video's late, by the way. And Taftaj actually clued me into something very smart going on here. Trans activism seems to rapidly switch between two perspectives, and this conversation reveals it. For example, when we talk about trans women in women's sports, the progressive line is trans women should be able to play in sports with cis women. But with the exception of the giga crazies, they don't actually mean all trans women. They mean trans women who have been on hormones for X number of years to ensure some level of fairness. Whether or not you agree if that can truly be considered fair doesn't actually matter for this conversation. What matters is how the progressives view their own position. The logic is, we should understand that trans people are the unfortunate victims of a horrible mental illness, and that insofar as they can accommodate the fairness of the sport, we should accommodate them by including them in it, and that trans women who do not qualify for that medical cutoff unfortunately can't compete. This makes trans activism sound like a medical rights lobby, like you'd see for blind people or deaf people or disabled people. However, if we talk about the actual treatments for that medical problem, suddenly the progressive logic switches. It's no longer a medical rights lobby, but now it's a lifestyle lobby like gay rights activism is. Now attempting to cure or treat the condition is framed like trying to treat being gay, where being gay is value neutral, and you're a bigot for thinking that it needs fixing. This is obviously false because hormones are medical treatment for dysphoria. If you don't have dysphoria, then your hormones are cosmetic, not medical. Your transition is cosmetic, not medical. Your identity is cosmetic, not medical. And you should be treated as if you are engaged in a cosmetic project, not a medical one. The trans activists use this Mott and Bailey to repeatedly switch between the medical rights lobby, give us compassion because we're suffering, and the lifestyle rights lobby, how dare you attack us for having a neutral lifestyle that is just like yours, when really, only one of these two positions can be true. Anyway, that was just an off-the-cuff video on conversion therapy, at least on the shit show surrounding my tweet on conversion therapy. This isn't even my actual analysis of conversion therapy, and you know what? I'm not even pro-conversion therapy in real life. Like, it doesn't work. That's why you shouldn't do it. But it really is fun watching all these fucking progs jump all over themselves and shit themselves over literally nothing. Alright guys, I'll see you next time. I love you.